everybody. I'm Idelette McVicker. My pronouns are she, her. And today I'm coming to you from the unceded territories of the Kwantlen and the Semi-Yamu peoples, also known as Surrey, British Columbia, and what is known as Canada. And so I'm so excited and just grateful to be here with everybody today. Yay!
Yay!
So I'll let our panelists, everybody, like just introduce yourselves, and yeah, it would be so good to see, yeah, to hear where everybody's. Can for those of you who are coming into our participants, we would love to hear where you're from. That would be fantastic. Tell us where you're from, please.
Morning. I see I see everyone's name on the side, so I wish I could see everyone's faces, but thank you guys so much for being here this morning or today or this afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. I'm coming to you from the unceded territories of the Katzie people, and this is my office slash our guest room in our little house in Maple Ridge, BC. So it's, yeah, I see Winnipeg, I see, oh wow, Scotland, oh my word, that's exciting. So, and Saskatchewan, that's, yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you guys for being here so much. It's amazing.
Oh, Sheena, Rochelle, oh my word, Winnipeg's represented. I love it. Morning.
Yay.
Carol.
So good day to all of you. My name is Erin, and I'm a pastor in very chilly Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And my pronouns are she, hers. And I live on the land of Treaty 6, home of the Cree, the Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux.
Wonderful. I'm just seeing, I have to rename myself over here. My apologies, because I came in as SheLoves. So if you're clicking on the screen, that is me. My apologies. Okay, so there we go. And we want to tell you that Courtney DeBoer is also, she's not visible on the screen because she's helping us with all the technology, but we're so grateful for her. And also Shaylee Hugendoren is going to be in the comments with you. If you see her name pop up, she's going to be asking some of the questions, and she's right there with you as well to help facilitate our conversation. We're so grateful to be here and to be gathered together on this very exciting day, a good day for love and liberation stories. I believe that. Okay, here we go. So, Erin, I believe we want to this is going to be a safe and a brave space, and it is a safe and a brave space, and we want to we just want to welcome you to that. We want to be part of crafting and holding that space together. Every one of us who is on the screen, and those of you in the comments who are here together, we are doing this together. Now, SheLoves, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about SheLoves. We are a community, a global sisterhood conversation on individual and collective liberation. And our 5 pillars are anti-racism, allyship, decolonization, deconstructing faith, and feminism. It's a bit of a headful, but it's amazing. What a journey, right? And so one of our core principles and our values is the Nguni concept of Ubuntu. And so that means that we belong to each other. We are human together. And so whether coming together here, we are creating this space together. In my mind, we're all sitting in a big circle together. I wish we could do that today, rather. We're all in a circle together. And Stacey can get most of the talking stick today. I'm so excited. But we're all here, and we value and we're so grateful that every one of you, we can see your names, and we honor you for being here too. Thank you.
Okay, so we've had one question so far, so I'll just address that before we go into some of the guidelines. For those of you who have never used a Zoom webinar before, in this space, only the panelists can be seen. So if you don't see your photo or your picture or your camera, it's okay. Everything's working properly. It's just in the webinar platform. It's just for the panelists at this time. As we gather here, we want to create both a safe space and a brave space for a conversation. Safe so that we can be vulnerable, and brave because sometimes a part of liberation is sitting with discomfort. So as we connect with one another in the chat and as we have an opportunity to ask questions later, we ask that you come with respect, love, and the admonishment from 1 Peter 2:17 to honor everyone. We want to listen with compassion and with curiosity. We will not allow violence here in any form. And while we are openly inviting your questions, speakers reserve the right to say no at any point. And be mindful of how that no might sit with you. It can sometimes be difficult for us to receive a no, as much as it can be difficult for us to give a no. It's not a rejection of you as a person, but simply a boundary to protect the heart and the spirit of our speaker. Let's speak from our own experience by using I statements. I believe, I feel, I understand that. Let's own our intentions and take responsibility for the effects of our words. Let's work to recognize our privileges, using this space to recognize and investigate our privilege, honor the different experiences that we all bring to this space. Lean into the discomfort. We are all in a process. Challenge yourself to contribute, even if it is not perfectly formulated. Take a step back. Share speaking time and try to speak after others who have not spoken. Notice and name group dynamics in the moment. We are all responsible for this space. Be aware of how others are responding or not responding, and take time out if needed. Grab a coffee, run to the bathroom, take some deep breaths. Do what you need to do in the space and the time. Actively listen. Listen to what is said before thinking about how to respond. Notice when defensiveness and denial arise and what might be surrounding that. And then challenge with care. Find ways to respectfully challenge others and be open to challenges of your own views. Think about how to question ideas without personal attacks, and ask for clarification if needed. The words of Parker J. Palmer, he said, "The human soul doesn't want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, to be seen, heard, and companioned exactly as it is."
Yes. Thank you so much, Erin. This is going to be available afterwards as well. So we wanted to be clear that we set those parameters for how we have a conversation. That matters to us a lot. So thank you for honoring that. We are going to be doing a giveaway of a copy of Rainbow Boy after. So please stay tuned for that. So after yes. That Rainbow Boy just came out on Tuesday, and Stacey has illustrated that, and it's really fabulous. And so Stacey's going to give away and draw a name for that right after the Q&A. So stay tuned. And so the chat is open. There's a Q&A section for you where you can pop in questions that you would like Stacey to answer. If you have any questions that you're bringing to the space, and I just love what's going on in the chat. People are just like so excited and cheering Stacey on, and I love it. So the Q&A is open, the chat is open. We're in there, we're with you here, and the video is about 27 minutes long, and so just enjoy, just sit back. This is so beautiful. Stacey, do you have any words before we go into this?
I'm gonna pretend that it's not super awkward to sit here and watch myself on the screen. So please chat so that I can look at something else and pretend that it's not weird. But I'm just so grateful to be here and just to have everybody here. And yeah, I'm overwhelmed with gratefulness. So thank you guys, and we'll chat after.
Awesome, wonderful. Oops. There we go. And I'm just going to make this full screen. And there we go.
Hi, friends. I respectfully acknowledge that we're meeting on the unceded traditional territories of the Katzie people. I want to thank them for the honor of being a guest on their lands. I'm taping this at my home church in Maple Ridge, BC, Open Door Church. I'd love to start off by reading one of my favorite poems by Mary Oliver, entitled Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. To me, this reads like a proclamation, like a prayer, like a celebration. When I read this, I want to fall to my knees with relief. I've continued to visit this beautiful poem through tough times, but especially in these tenuous COVID times. These words bring deep relief to my soul. You do not have to be good? What? That is a startling statement to me, even as I read it today. What does it mean? As a lesbian Christian, as a married lesbian Christian who's been out for 10 years and has 2 toddler-aged kids, I don't have to be good? Oh, but my evangelical roots threaten to get all tangled up in that sort of statement. Because I grew up believing I had to be good. Oh boy, I believed I had to be so good, good enough to get into heaven. I believed Jesus loved me, but mostly when I was being good. When I wasn't swearing or gossiping or listening to secular music, no, Jesus was not a fan of Alanis Morissette. I had to always do the right thing. And for the most part, growing up in my middle class evangelical home, getting good grades and venturing out to mainly church events, I was super good. Jesus was in my corner for sure. I was really good at being his smiley example to all my non-Christian friends. Come on, guys, sin's not that hard to avoid. That is until my mid-teens. Oh, shoot, is that a girl I have a crush on? Oh, dang it. No, Jesus definitely didn't love me when I started struggling with homosexuality. I had to be good. This was very, very bad. From a really young age, I had this dream or wish or feeling that God would use my life or my story for something good. Not necessarily something grand or big or important, but just something good. Even if it was just to help a couple people. This feeling inside was something I couldn't describe, but I also couldn't ignore it. I never really told anyone about it. It was like this soft little song that played inside of me. And when I was alone and still, I could feel this hopeful melody rise up. I wanted to be used by God. I wanted to be good. I didn't want to struggle with liking girls. How could my life be used for good if I wasn't good? You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. Yeah, I realize now, having recently turned 40, that no, I didn't have to do that. But the moment I started struggling with homosexuality at age 16, I got on my knees and I crawled through that desert repenting every single day. I would wake up and realize I was still attracted to girls and pray through tears, asking God to change me. I don't know how many miles I walked, but I walked through that desert for 13 years. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. For 13 years, I fought against my body and my heart and its innate desires. I grew to hate them because I was taught to do so. I believed my desires were bad, and therefore I believed I was bad. Despair clung to me like a thick, wet blanket. I desperately wanted to let that soft, raw part of myself love what it loved, love who it loved. But no, I had to be good. I had to fight against these secular desires, and I fought with God when he repeatedly ignored my pleas to change them. It wasn't until I became almost 30 years old and I came to the end of my rope and I felt like my soul was splitting in two. I had to finally admit I couldn't pray my gay away any more than I could change the color of my eyes. And I didn't want to leave my faith because Jesus and I had a really deep relationship and it was woven into my DNA. But I was so tired of fighting myself and fighting God. I had to just take a deep breath and I had to own my story. I finally asked God to take my sexuality and take my faith and bless them together as one. And no one had told me I could do that. I never thought it was possible, and so I never asked. I believed I had to choose one because I was taught that. And as ridiculous as it sounds, after I asked God to bless all of me, I felt almost immediate peace. I was so used to this constant chaos in my body, and at that moment, a warm gentleness began to calm the storm. I knew deep inside that was God finally exhaling, because he saw that I finally came to this place where I asked him to bless all of me, because all of these parts are good. After the peace settled, I realized I didn't exactly know what to do next. I mean, I was a Christian and I was gay, and how does one go through life proclaiming to be a gay Christian in their conservative evangelical families and churches? I had thought through other scenarios, life as a Christian or life as a lesbian, but this, I didn't know any other gay Christians that existed, so this was really scary territory. I wasn't sure where it would lead me, but at least I was moving forward with this peace inside. No one could take that from me, and I knew it would help me own my story one step at a time. As the months and years went by, I felt God asking me to share my story in really small ways here and there. And if I wasn't sure, I would close my eyes and hear that melody deep inside, and it always nudged me to say yes. Conversations or questions with pastors or friends would come up, and I would just try to be honest. I would tell them who I was. I would tell them about my peace, even if it was scary or awkward or often hurtful. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. I've always used art as a way to escape. I would sit down as a little kid and draw any animated character I could find. Even as a child, it felt empowering to see something be created on this blank piece of paper in front of me. There was always an unspoken piece of me that I could tap into when my pencil ran across the page. It was a sort of language that I could only feel. Now, as much as I desperately loved drawing, it never came easily to me. As I got older and more aware of others looking at my drawings, I struggled with perfectionism, and I wasn't sure if they were right. And even today, as a professional artist, it does not come easily to me. I've always worked really hard at it, but the need to do it is always there. And I often feel this desperate urge to sketch something, and I wrestle with translating it onto the paper or screen. And more often than not, something gets lost, but the need to get it outside of my body is loud, and so I keep trying. Like many people, I struggle with a lot of self-doubt and perfectionism, and I often fall into the trap of comparison. I know so much of that is our human nature, and being a people-pleasing woman doesn't help that either. I'm often surprised when our 4-year-old daughter immediately compares herself to her friends or her brother. Why did they have that, not me? How come their shoes are shinier than mine? Or when she sits with me to draw and she wants to immediately crumple her paper because her flower isn't perfect. That negative voice in our heads that starts so early. I try to remind her there's only one her in this world. Perfectionism is never the goal. Making mistakes and trying new things, it's how we grow. It reminds me to have continual grace too for that little girl inside of me. I think we're always learning how to change the stories in our heads to be more positive, even as adults. I think maybe more so as adults. That's one of the beautiful and often difficult things I've found about being a parent, trying to encourage and guide these tiny people entrusted to us. We get our own childhoods reflected back to us in these little humans as they grow, and sometimes that can bring up really painful stuff that we thought we already worked through. In my office at home, which in 2020 became my only office in this work from home Groundhog Day, I have a few things written in Sharpie around my desk, and 2 of them I have to read all the time. One I wrote just to myself, and it says, "Just be Stace. That's all you have to do." Sometimes I forget there is actually only one me, just like there is actually only one you. The best gift we can give ourselves and the world is to just be only entirely, thoroughly just us. The second quote is from Brené Brown. It reads, "Stay in your own lane. Comparison kills creativity and joy." I know this is so true every time I allow myself to compare my art or my journey to someone else. It literally zaps me of all of my joy and takes me away from being paralyzed of creating anything new. But how do we own our own stories if they aren't as flashy or sexy or desirable as the stories we see on Instagram? dang it, my cookies don't look that cool. Social media has opened us up to comparing things we never would have before. Why do I even care about seeing someone's dinner? Because I do. It sets us up for this never-ending want mentality. What we have isn't enough. It's not the best. It's not satisfying. How can we push against that? How can we stop and choose to practice gratitude with what we have and who we are in this moment? Because if I'm unique, that means that my life, my imagination, my perspective, gifts, talents, they're all unique too. Only I can translate my version of my story for the world, and this world needs everyone's story. Since finding my peace over 10 years ago, I've been searching for just the right way to tell my story. Because when I was walking through my desert, I could never find stories of someone like me. And believe me, I looked far and wide. I desperately wanted to talk to a woman who loved Jesus, but also wanted to make a life and a family with another woman. And now I guess I am that woman. After peace flooded my body, I felt that nagging urge inside of me, like when I had to do a drawing. I needed to get my story outside of my body somehow. What if there was someone out there who was like younger me, who needed to hear it? Since having our kids in 2016, that need increased by a lot. I want my kids to have examples of marginalized stories like mine. Stories that merge faith and sexuality, stories that talk about LGBTQ Christian families like ours and how we had to fight to get here. As one of their moms, I want to show them how to listen closely for their own voice inside, and then to chase down their own wild paths. I want to show them to believe in themselves and how their dreams matter, no matter how audacious they are. Because my dreams have always been audacious. When I was 16, I wrote a Christian-themed horse adventure novel for young adults. Shockingly, it's still looking for a publisher. I've always loved to write, but it's been a sort of secret dream between God and I. I chose to pursue art as my career, so my writing dreams went to live quietly in the pages of my journals. I've worked in animation for almost 10 years and thought about doing a short animated film of my story, but nothing ever materialized. Then one day last year, I was sitting in a therapy session where I was talking to my younger self, and it hit me. I should write and illustrate a kid's book for my younger self and help her and I heal together. It literally just dropped in my head, clear as day. Once in a while, I feel like there's ideas that come and they resonate so deeply. It's as if the idea has been living there my whole life. I just finally dusted off enough layers to reveal it. So I started drawing, I started sketching in the commuter train into Vancouver, just little storyboards of teenage me sitting in church, feeling overwhelmed by shame. It felt right, but also surprisingly hard to open up myself to sketch these moments out. I knew there were people in my life who wouldn't want me to tell my story. And I think growing up in the evangelical church, struggling with homosexuality, I was always surrounded by that thick layer of shame and guilt. The message was, if I was going to struggle, then please, by all means, do it quietly. Don't draw attention to it. And here I was, literally drawing attention to it. This felt scary. But if I'm honest, it felt like the kind of scary when you're at the top of a roller coaster. I knew I was in for a wild ride, but I knew there was no turning back. I was supposed to do this. I didn't know if it would go anywhere, but I knew I had to listen to that gentle song deep inside. Within a couple of weeks, I had finished maybe 3 or 4 illustrations, and I had a manuscript of about 1,200 words, and I titled it Dear Younger Gay Me. I had envisioned it like a picture book that my kids can maybe one day pick off the shelves. And normally I struggle to find the right style of illustrations, but for this, it came really easily. Younger me was really itching to get outside onto paper. I never had any experience with publishing, but I knew some artists in animation who had illustrated kids' books, and I knew they had agents. An agent seemed to be a big piece of this puzzle. But I heard getting an agent to represent your work was really difficult and can take a while. But I thought, why not try? I Googled agents who would be looking for LGBTQ kids stories, and I sent out a few emails. I think I sent them out like on a Thursday evening. And the next morning, I had an email from an agent in New York City who wanted to talk to me that morning. He was really enthusiastic about my work, which took me by surprise. I thought it was really rare to get a response so fast, so I was just going to sign with him. But while we were on the phone talking, I heard from another agent who also wanted to talk with me. I remember reading that second email and running over to my wife Tams and saying, like, what is happening? And she just smiled and she said, yeah, I had a feeling. I talked with the second agent that afternoon, and given her passion for queer stories and her promise to take good care of mine, I decided to sign with her. We hit the ground running, working on the manuscript and getting a formal proposal ready to send out to publishers. I remember looking at my first illustration of young me sitting on her bed, surrounded by a bunch of Bibles, searching for answers about what homosexuality meant to her little Christian soul. And I asked God right there, God, please just take this story and do what you want with it. It's not about me. I want this to reach someone who needs it, to know they'll be okay, to know they are okay. I promise to just work hard and be as honest as I can. And I forget sometimes that prayer can really change things. The next few months, my little story took on its little own evolution. We got feedback from a few editors about how they loved the story and the art, but they felt it needed more detail to connect with readers. Inside, I winced. More detail. I had purposely skipped over massive sections of my life to give the Coles notes on my journey. I think I had some big fear and shame about sharing it all. Vulnerability is really scary. What would people think if I did share it all? And why would people even care anyway? But again, I felt the nudging inside to just trust where this process was leading, and I just vowed to get out of my own way. A major shift soon happened when an editor suggested that my story might work better as a young adult graphic novel instead of a short picture book. The idea of not only rewriting, but majorly expanding my story was terrifying. But I trusted the feedback from these editors. And under my agent's encouragement, I wrote a couple chapters just to get my feet wet. I sent them to her, and then I dove under a bunch of blankets to await her thoughts. She soon responded with, "This is so great, keep going." With that short sentence of encouragement, I felt my story groan inside with a deep need to burst out. That night, something woke me up at 3 a.m., and I never have trouble sleeping, by the way. I literally felt myself being pulled out of bed and onto the computer. I made a coffee, I took a deep breath, and I started typing. Something happened to me that's never happened before. I could feel some other force in my hands as I typed. Whether that was God or just the coffee kicking in, I'm not sure. I probably looked like that YouTube cat at the computer, frantically typing. I just couldn't stop. It poured out of me, and I sat there for the next 22 hours as I wrote. It was an opening of the floodgates, and I was just standing there holding the door. Tams would occasionally open the door and leave snacks and ask if I was okay, and I would just say, yeah, I'd just keep typing and say, I'm fine. My story went from 1,200 words to 43,000 words overnight. A couple months later, we received an email from a publisher saying they were interested and were going to take it to acquisitions. Soon after that, I stared at disbelief at my screen when we got an official book deal offer. They asked if we could change the name to align better with the young adult market. After rounds of suggestions, we landed on one of their picks. Still Stace, my gay Christian coming of age story. I'm still getting used to having my name in the title, but it publishes this fall, and I continue to be in disbelief. This audacious dream of mine is coming true. I cannot believe I have this opportunity. A chance to merge my love of art and my dream of writing to tell my story in my way. It's so humbling and liberating. This feels like in Luke 12:48, where it says, "From everyone to whom much was given, much will be expected." This is a privilege I do not take lightly. But am I nervous as to what happens next? For sure. I own my story, I wrote it, I illustrated it, I poured my heart and soul into it, and I was as honest and vulnerable as possible. But how do I own my story this fall when it actually comes out and people read it and give me all kinds of feedback? How do I own my story when I know there are people close to me who would rather I not talk about this? Who will have major criticism or heap Christian guilt upon me for saying that being gay is okay in God's eyes when they believe it is absolutely not? Well, Brene Brown said, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we'll ever do. So I'll just try to be kind to myself and try to be brave. I'll just take a deep breath and I'll just keep going. And yes, I'm sure there'll be crying and therapy and carbs, but the point is I will keep going. I will continue to own my story every single day. I will choose to be okay with what happens and let it go. And dang it, I can be really proud of myself too. I can look back and know that I followed that knowing song inside of me and that I have been authentic to that. And that is all I need to do. That is all any of us can do. I cannot control how other people will read it or interpret it. I just need to hold my hand open and allow my story to take its own flight. When I was in animation school, a prof of mine said to the class, "You need to let your story tell you what it wants to be." I realized through this process, my story is going to be what it's going to be. But what about my constantly evolving story now, beyond the book, in the midst of COVID? My life today as a gay Christian parent, as a wife, as a daughter, a friend, as a human. I need to have grace for myself today, just like I can have for my younger self. I, like all of us, are on continuing journeys of becoming. Glennon Doyle writes, "I'm a human being meant to be in perpetual becoming. If I am living bravely, my entire life will become a million deaths and rebirths. My goal is not to remain the same, but to live in such a way that each day, year, moment, relationship, conversation, and crisis is the material I use to become a truer, more beautiful version of myself." We are becoming who we are meant to be, evolving from who we were yesterday and growing in all directions. I don't know about you, but life in quarantine has made me feel like I don't even recognize my own self anymore. I feel like I'm changing and growing and becoming in all these directions, and I'm just trying to hold on tight because sheesh, life is so scary right now. Can we just pause all this scariness and just binge watch The Office for a while? Cleo Wade writes, "Change is necessary. It is important. Life is not supposed to stay the same. We are not supposed to stay the same. Our life, our communities, and our world are always in bloom. When we understand this, we see that change is growth, and growth is essential for each of us to reach our individual and collective potential." What are the ways in which you can or will or do own your story today? The story of who you were, of who you've become, and of who you are becoming. We can all learn so much from each other's stories, from seeing how weathered the paths are and how hard we've trudged through them to get where we are today. And right now, what our world could use a lot more of is empathy, compassion, kindness, and grace. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. It calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. You have a place in this family of things. I have a place in this family of things. And this family of things right now is in the midst of COVID, and we are tired. We are discouraged. We are lonely. We are scared. I'm all of those things too. But I also see glimmers of hope. I hear whispers of victories, and I feel rumblings of celebrations. Morgan Harper Nichols writes, "Be still in the chaos. See how the body still breathes, how you are still filled with life in the depths of this uncertainty." As I've been learning what it means to own my story in this ever-changing world today, I'm learning that sometimes it means I have to hold on to grief and joy in the same moment. I can choose to belly laugh at my kids dancing while also being terrified how long COVID will go on for, or what happens if one of us gets really sick. Because as Gary Haugen says, joy is the oxygen of doing hard things. When I came out in 2010, I remember someone close to me saying, "Please just don't have kids. It's not fair to them." I think of that sometimes when I stare into the beautiful brown eyes of my daughter as she tells me her latest dragon story. Or when I listen to my impossibly excited 3-year-old son asking me to come read a book with him. Life's not fair to anyone, but my kids, they stand firmly planted in this love that we give them. In every way I try to love them and be present in their lives, I'm owning my authenticity and I'm pushing back against that lie I was fed. I'm very far from a perfect parent, and it's indeed the toughest thing I've ever done. Especially in quarantine, I don't recommend it with 2 toddlers. But I'm here every day trying to show up for them, loving them as best I can. And our family may look different, but our love looks the same. So this doesn't change the fact that life right now is really messy, and sometimes as a way to practice self-love and forgiveness for my perfectionist self, I have to let go and just lean into this wondrous chaos that's unfolding. Seasons of life aren't necessarily good or bad. They're a mix of this beautiful mess. And life, especially today, is uncertain and stressful and so heavy, and I validate that. but I can choose to have radical joy and curiosity and intention, because life right now is still life. It still invites us to live it. 2020 was super rough on so many levels, but I'm filled with hope that even though we have so much further to go, we are talking more and fighting more for racial injustice for our Black and Indigenous sisters and brothers. I have seen people rise up and do amazing things for each other during quarantine. I've seen people find radical new ways to connect when we have to stay physically apart. There is still so much hope, friends. I feel it vibrating in my bones. I see it softly glowing throughout my life. L.R. Nost writes, "Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you." An older woman once said to me in youth group in that syrupy Christian older woman voice, "Oh dear, God will always give you the desires of your heart." And I nodded politely, but I don't think deep down I thought it was true. But dang it, it's true. I'm not sure how, but today as I observe my life, I'm surrounded by so many deep desires of my heart, and I'm living in my full authenticity as a gay Christian woman. I believe God planted that seed of a dream in my heart at a young age to share my story. And I sit here today in awe as it slowly blooms in front of me. You do not have to be good. I realize now as I read that poem, that is God's voice talking to me. Sweet child, you never had to be good. You just had to be you. And by the way, you are so, so good. You and all of your beautiful sexuality, your unique artistry, your wacky way of being, these are all so good. In fact, I will scatter the wild geese into the crisp air to remind you over and over that you have a specific, unique, and instrumental place in this family of things. Just go out there and own your story.
Oh, what a gift that we get to be a witness to your story. Wow, I couldn't see any of the comments or the chats. I was having my own little, like, hallelujahs and amens over here, and there were so many lines and sentences and pieces of your story, Stacey, that were just like, my body was just like, yes, just coming into your authenticity and owning it. And, you know, I think for me, the part that's, that broke my heart when I first heard it, is when you talked about it. I walked through that desert for 13 years. And I fought against my body and my heart and its innate desires. I grew to hate them because I was taught to do so. I believed my desires were bad, and therefore I believed I was bad. I'm so grateful that you are changing the narrative around that. Anyway, any comments, hearing yourself again?
Well, it was just so amazing to see the comments. And you know, like I said in our Instagram live, like when I was filming that, I just felt like I didn't know what it was for, but I felt like it was good for me to do, just cathartic, but I felt like it was for some reason. And it just I feel just so grateful to be here in this community and watch it with you guys, and just to be reminded that, you know, I believe God has brought me to this moment and to the next moment and to, you know, the next few months, and it's just so beautiful to reflect on that, and to have that like kindness and compassion for that sort of teen version of myself, or teen into 29, you know, version of myself that really just struggled with being, you know, authentic and just actually loving themselves. And that's, why I wanted to write the book, just so that, you know, even if you're not struggling with being gay, even if you're just struggling with being kind to yourself, just to see that, you know, if we can try and embrace that, you know, I think the lives that we can lead can be so much more fulfilling, and that we can serve others better, and we can love others better because we can love ourselves better. And anyway, that was a bit of a tangent, but I'm just so grateful to watch it with you guys. So thank you so much for all your comments and encouragements.
I know, I love this. Is amazing. So beautiful, but there's no questions. I mean, hello. Do you have any questions for Stacey? But something that's coming to mind is like, all that work from 16-year-old Stacey to where you are now, 40, a woman telling her story and coming to that place of telling her story. That's like, what's that, 24 years, right? I'm sorry, my math.
Yeah. Oh my word. Yeah. I'm not a mathematologist, but yeah, that sounds right.
Mathematologist is but that 24 years has been a journey of liberation. And I feel like today, as we sit in your presence and as you tell that story, 27 minutes, but there's 24 years of liberation in your words. And as I sit here, I get to just take that in, right? And so all that work that you have done, it's in 27 minutes, but I want to honor the 24 years that you have done to walk that out.
Thank you.
To own your liberation and to own your authenticity.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. Actually, that makes sense. That maybe that's why it felt so big, because there was all this time that passed in there. But I mean, again, I was talking about just like God, helping my dreams come true, and often it wasn't even dreams that I would say out loud. It was even just the dream I've always had of speaking. I've always wanted to speak, or even, I mean, I'm no preacher, but just, I'm an artist that quietly draws in the corner normally, but I love to speak when asked. And I always had a dream of maybe speaking. And once I started struggling, I was like, oh, well, I'll never be able to speak at church because they'll never allow me to do that. And now it feels like, oh, I'm actually speaking because of that. And so that again is this other full circle moment that I feel like you think these things are things that God isn't going to be able to use, or he might use you despite them, but he actually often, I feel like, uses you because of them. And that's just so beautiful to me, I think.
So we have a couple of questions for you. So a question from Ruth. They would like to know when your book is going to hit bookstores and if there's a possibility to pre-order.
Yes, thank you for asking that. So this this whole thing, all this time with this thing happening was really interesting. The publishers emailed me last week. My editor said, "Oh, your book's going up for pre-order any day." So I was like, "Well, I'm doing something on the 23rd. Is it going to be up then?" So I believe it's available for pre-order. We're going to put the links. It's available, I think, only in the States right now for pre-order. But she said it takes a while for like all the information to get to Amazon and all the other big websites. So any day it will be available for pre-order everywhere else. And I'll be posting it on my, oh, there we go. There's this is the cover. I don't know if you guys can see it on the side, but this is really exciting because it's the first time that I've actually publicly shared the cover. So yeah, it's really exciting. I was drawing that months ago, and so it's still weird for me to see it and be like, oh, that's gonna be a book. That's really weird. It's still not really totally hitting me, and it'll be published October 19th this year. So then it'll be everywhere. I hope that answers your question.
So exciting. I saw Shaylee has put the pre-order link from the actual publisher. It is on Amazon. I saw on Amazon.com, but I think it wasn't available for pre-order yet on Amazon, but it is at the publisher. Yes.
And yeah, it will be any day on Amazon. Within any day. I think you can click that. You can get them to email you, and it's available if you want to do that. And someone, Allison said in the comments that it reminds her of Red Rock. It is Red Rock Camp. From the cover, it was me. It starts out at me at like church camp. So I love that she said that, because that makes me happy. Yeah, that's what it's from.
All right, so our next question is from Misty, and they ask, sorry, that's my little dog Piper, who's a little bit Many LGBTQ folks do leave the church to fully embrace their sexuality. What do you say to those folks? How can it be safe for them to come back?
Yeah, Definitely. That's the biggest question. I think that, you know, in my life in general, like even at work and that, like I come out as a Christian because, being gay is very normal in the art world. And they're like, oh, you go to church. Oh, how's that? So yeah, it's tough, but I think for that question, like that's why people like me and myself, that's why I choose to be visible, because I feel like, I think things are changing. I think it's slow, but I do believe that the larger church is changing. And I just feel like there's such a beautiful community of LGBT people and queer people that can and need to contribute to the church. And so I feel like, I hope that they start to see that there are more and more communities where we are allowed to fully serve and fully, to not just give our gay money, but that we can fully, be up at the front and preach or teach Sunday school or, play music. And I hope and pray that, as time goes on and more stories like ours become more mainstream, that that more and more LGBT people will feel like it's safer to come back. But until then, I'll keep talking and keep hoping and praying and just being visible. But it is hard for sure.
Definitely. The next question is from Jess, and they ask, I am a mental health counselor, and I recently attended a training during which the presenter said many of us sacrifice our need for authenticity on the altar of attachment. This resonated, and it feels true in both family of origin situations and with the evangelical God I grew up with. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, that's a tough one. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's why I struggled to be authentic, for so long, because I was really attached to my evangelicalism. And I still hold on to a lot of that. I don't know if that ex-evangelical, I know people use that term. I don't really know what I am. I love Jesus. And so there's that. But it's really, really tough to unwind and sort of separate those things, because the typical evangelical idea of God is not necessarily for LGBT people. And I think that's really triggering. And I know a lot of my friends, even after the whole thing with this workshop happened, where they dropped to LGBT people, they said, like, I had a couple of messages from friends privately that said, like, why are you still trying? Like, the church is not going to change. I have been too hurt. I have given up. You should give up too. And I cried. Because it's true. And I feel that. And I've been there, but I just physically cannot give up, because I do feel that there's so much hope, that there's just so much to keep going and so much beauty to keep fighting for. And so I just feel like my responsibility is to just keep talking about it. And I don't necessarily have answers. I don't have any answers really, but I have my experience, and I think that's what I draw from. So I don't know if that answers it at all, but those are my thoughts. Thanks for these great questions, you guys.
So we have another question from someone who's chosen to remain anonymous. They ask, Stacey, where's a safe place that you know of in Canada? I'm in Ontario, if that helps, to go for gay Christians who are just still closeted and deeply committed to God?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that, because that is the thing too. I know that a lot of people don't feel like they are safe or are in a place where they can be out, and I totally respect that. I think, you need to whatever you feel inside is the safest for you. You need to do that. So Generous Space is a really great community. We can post the links. We will post links, some resource links after this that are going to be at the back of my book. And we've curated a bunch of links, but specifically in Canada, Generous Space is a really good online community of queer people, straight as well, but allies. And there's like a website and online community, but there's also throughout Canada, there's little Bible study groups. Pre-COVID, it was actually people could actually meet in your house, which was nice. But since COVID, we've been doing it all online. But there's a lot of different people in that community that are not out yet, and in different stages of coming out and being closeted. And so there's tons of things to connect to. So there's Facebook groups, and they're all private and secret and stuff. So we can definitely, if you feel comfortable reaching out, and please always, anybody here feel comfortable to reach out to me personally. I really want to, be a resource myself, and anything that you share with me is safe and won't we leave myself. So, but that's a really good resource that I've used a lot, is Gender Space, and we're involved with that a lot as well.
Next question. Do you think that your kids feel the absence of a male figure at the home? This is from someone who's chosen to remain anonymous.
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. And honestly, that's something that I struggled with when Tams and I were, starting to talk about actually having kids. Because I think I grew up with, I'm not going to say specifically, but I grew up with a lot of people in my life who definitely discouraged me. If you have to be gay, I mean, don't bring kids into this, they're innocent. And so I wondered about that, because I have such a huge fear of doing the wrong thing. So I was like, what if, are we doing a disservice to our kids? They're not going to have a dad. And but honestly, and Tams said this to me all the time too, but they will have two people in their life who love them and have fought for them and have chose them. And what more could they want? What more could they need? And I've seen that as, our kids have grown up. It's, they're 4 and 3, and now Robson, who's 4, she's sort of is like, Mommy, I don't have a dad. And it's so matter of fact. I'm like, no, you don't. Yeah, I have 2 moms. And yeah. And then she's like, what color is this? She's onto something else. It's very simple to her, but she just sees it as, normal. So it's beautiful. It's a different kind of beautiful than what I thought my life was going to be. And I think it's a lot more beautiful than what I thought it was going to be. And I think our kids are going to be okay. And we make sure that there's a lot of strong men in their life that, they can go to if they need to, and that, that they're loved by.
Okay. Another anonymous question. I admire your courage in embracing who you feel you are. Have you tried to date boys as it means to be like most girls when growing up?
This is in the book, yes. I did. I think only one of my semi relationships was in the book, but for sure, I mean, in high school, I was like, all my friends would be like, oh, he's so cute. I was like, yes, he's cute. So I tried, and I wanted to, make sure that that I definitely didn't want to date a guy. So I did try, but I think that was helpful to show me that was not for me. So, but there's a lot more details in the book. So that's the short answer. Yeah.
So last anonymous question here. Are you still in touch with your parents and grandparents?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And that's a tough thing, but I love my parents. I don't know if they, are aware of today. But we have sort of an ongoing, not necessarily tenuous, but it's a complicated relationship. They're Nana and Papa to our kids. We have a ongoing text group with me and Tams and my parents. And, there's lots of topics that we just don't talk about. There's lots of things we avoid. I'm not just being gay. We avoid politics. We avoid many big hot button things that I'm sure a lot of people avoid now. So we talk about the weather and my job and the kids are a good thing to talk about. So it is tough. And I think the book will be challenging for them. And I tried, as I said, to be super honest, because I feel like the relationship with the parents is one of the biggest and most difficult things for so many gay people. And so I wanted to be honest in doing it kindly as well, but wanting to have that as an ongoing conversation. So I have to just let that be what it's going to be. And but yes, I love my parents, and we will continue on as best we all can.
I think that's it from the Q&A list that we have open here. So, yeah.
I just noticed there was a comment just to Stacey that somebody was desperate to see anyone like me was out there. So I searched gay Christian moms. What I mostly found were a bunch of hate groups. And she said, but after digging deep and searching hashtags, I found you. Just say thank you for being public with your story so that people like me who are closeted and unable to come out can see what life can be like someday. You're an encouragement to me.
Oh, I think I see that Amy said that, I think. Oh my word, that's like, I mean, this is like such a dream for me because I would, go on my bike when I was in my teens and just like cry, and I would do the same thing. I mean, there wasn't internet, but when there was internet, I would search, and I didn't find anybody. And so I vowed to like, just if I ever had a chance, just to be somebody. And so that makes me very, very grateful. So thank you for saying that.
Now, do we have time for one more question, or do we need to get to the book draw?
Oh, right. Yeah,
I can try and squeeze one more in. It's up to you guys.
I wanted to comment on Brenda. Brenda Lisa Saki. She said, as a cisgendered white woman breaking down barriers and dismantling homophobia and misinterpretation of theology, it is up to us, and I said, to do the hard work of speaking up and calling up and not accepting this anymore in the evangelical world. Allyship matters.
Thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. Because I mean, like I said earlier, in the churches that are changing, but there's still so many spaces in which I would not be allowed to be, because people hear gay and then right away their minds close or their doors close. And so there's lots of conversations and meetings and sermons and churches that just wouldn't allow us to be there. But if you're straight and you're there and you're in the midst of a conversation, that you hear something and you are able to say something, to that, like, oh, actually, I know somebody that's not true about, or, you have that privilege of being there. So allyship absolutely matters. And I thank you for that so much, because we need all of you desperately.
Yeah, and I love how Generous Space says we practice allyship. It's not like you get it. You practice it. You have to practice allyship. So okay, so book draw. Sorry, thanks for keeping me on time.
Okay, so I got the list of everyone who came, and it's in an Excel sheet, and so it's all numbered of, I guess, when people bought their tickets. So I just chose a number, so this is not rigged. I just chose a number. So I chose 24. So 24 happens to be Sheena Coops. So yeah. So Sheena, if you want to reach out with you can privately send us a message with your mailing address, and I'll make sure to write a special message for you at the front, and we'll make sure to get that off for you. So I hope you enjoy it. Maybe take a picture and tag me when you get it. I'd love to see that.
Oh, Sheena's one of our dangerous women too, so I love it. She's
cool.
Yeah, it's Saskatchewan. That's incredible.
Oh, yay! Woo! Yay!
Yes. Okay, so then, okay, we've got, if you wanted to see more of Stacey's work and where you can find more of what she's doing in the world, I think we're going to put up her just kind of her website and her blog, and where you can find her art and follow her on Instagram and all of that good stuff. And yes, so I think we're going to put that up. I
think someone asked if this thing is going to be posted somewhere.
Yes, we're going to post this. So the comments and the chats won't be visible, but just what we were saying, that's going to be visible, and we'll be sharing that. It's going to be on SheLoves and also on our socials, because one of the things was Stacey was saying that you wanted all of it. You wanted to get it out. You want to get the word out to people who need to hear this story, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Then yeah. So just if you, I don't know if Shaylee, you can pop it in there for us. Just also SheLovesMagazine.com, and also our community where there's more people like this who just believe to stand with and to not move towards that God moves towards love, and the dangers that we want to be dangerous in the face of the status quo. And so that's dangerouswoman.org if you want to check that out. We have, okay. Any final words, Stacey? Anything else?
Oh, I'm sad to end this today, but I want to keep everybody. I know we said around 11, but yes, I have a couple of final words. First, I just want to say just a massive, massive thank you to the SheLoves community. And you all have been just so beautiful and supportive and amazing. And I'm just like, I could not have asked for a better and more beautiful community to share my story with. So thank you guys, and make sure you guys all, follow SheLoves and keep up with that. It's, yes, amazing. So I feel very humbled by that. And as I said before, this is an ongoing conversation. So please, continue to talk with people, continue to talk to me, send me emails, follow me online, and I'll try to comment as best I can, because I really want to just be involved in this ongoing conversation. And I'm just really grateful for you all to be here. And if it's okay, I'd love to say like a quick prayer of blessing before we all go off into the corners of our world, if you don't mind. Okay. God, our Father and Mother, thank you for being in this virtual space with us today. Thank you for this community of brave people who want to love and learn and grow. Thank you for helping us find new ways to connect with each other. I ask that you would show up in the ways that people need you today, in the soft and gentle ways, and in the loud and life-changing ways. May we feel your love in the wind that is before us, beside us, behind us, and upon us. Thank you, and amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everyone. It's been awesome to be here.
Be well. Check out the resources. There's a list on SheLoves. Right on the front page of SheLovesMagazine.com, you'll see a resource that Stacey has curated. And we'll share it on our socials as well, just for if you need safe places and brave places, and more books that you can read and find out more about. So yeah, here we go. Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Love you to everybody. Thank you. No, it's, yeah, I wish I could hug you guys too.